So here's a book cover for The Green Children of Woolpit that I've done recently. I feel like when you're working on a project with text, there's always a clue to color in that text. In this case, it's pretty obvious. It's the green children. The kids are green and they came from a world that is all green. So it makes sense to me that the color should also have a green tint. And that's kind of how I first establish the overall tone of the image. Besides being green, the kids are also kind of creepy. They came from this other underground world, and it's sort of a mystery throughout the story if they're good or they are evil to human. So we sort of want a sense of mystery on that cover. And I decided to give it sort of like a low lighting situation to enhance that feeling of unknown. And when we see in low light, our eyes tend to see like the blues and the greens better than we see the reds. The reds tend to become more like black and dark color. So let's talk about this piece with the 5 key points that we covered so far. The first one is relativity, which really is understanding color and seeing them as a continuous fabric. So that is more like an ongoing backdrop for the 4 other things we talk about. The second point is consistency. In this piece, for example, is a low light environment with a green tint. So everything has to live in that world to feel like it belongs. I'm also using the value that we talk about to establish a kind of eye movement. Our eyes are being drawn towards this kiss, and then we kind of follow this like dart shape of curve, go up, and then see the girl here, who is also a heroine in the story. And the curve of the shape also directs the eye, which is more on the composition side rather than what we talk about today with value and colors, kind of bring us back to these kids. The fourth point is accent color. In this case is the red here. I use it very sparingly and only around area that I want your eyes to really focus on. A little bit up top, so then to create that circulation we see in the John Singer Sargent piece we saw earlier. And the last point is ratio, which is closely tied in with the accent color as well. Like imagine if I have red everywhere and have this red the same intensity as this green. We can take a look. This green is around the middle of the saturation side. And then we can take a look at this red. It's a lot more muted, or even here. It's a lot more muted and darker. So that way it support each other rather than competing with each other. Now, when we're working on something like this one, which is a book cover with type on it, we have to consider the type as part of the composition and therefore consider its value impact as well. So here's an example of the same cover without the type. As you can see, the value all of a sudden feels a lot more muted. And with the type, the value structure feels a lot more completed. So now that we covered the key points and I've shown you how I dissect other artists' piece, why don't you guys also pick a piece that you really like, bring it to Photoshop, use the eyedropper tool to really understand the color, maybe turn it into black and white as well to see what their value structure looks like. Now that we have gone through all of this, we're entering into the exciting part of the class, which is stealing other people's palette and then make it into your own.